great initiative, and I hope that I can contribute to give some useful insights. So first of all, I think that Itaf yourself in your introduction, you mentioned what science diplomacy is, how important it is also for the diplomacy also, not only for the scientists, for the policymakers. And I think that I will skip the part of my intervention that was underlining that, because you will be also discussing about the more theoretical part of science diplomacy during these 3 days. What I think can be very useful and helping you in framing the discussion is to see how in the European Commission, in developing and implementing the international cooperation research innovation policy, we do really science diplomacy in action. We put in motion actions that engender the science diplomacy. First of all, in this respect, let me say that our international cooperation in research and innovation, the EU international cooperation in research and innovation, is framed within a new strategy, which the European Commission adopted in May this year, called the Global Approach to Research and Innovation. The Global Approach to Research and Innovation is a communication of the European Commission. Communication of the Commission are kind of these policy documents which we adopt, and it's important to know that this communication has been fully endorsed by the Council of Ministers of the European Union, who adopted conclusions supporting the approach of the communication, and also by the European Parliament, which has been discussing this communication and endorsed that. What do we want to do? What do we present in the communication, and what do we want to do, and how science diplomacy fits in? What we want is really to use research and innovation in a much more strategic way, to use our international cooperation in research and innovation as a tool to move forward in the implementation of the key strategic priorities of the European Union, which relate to the twin transition, the green and digital transition, health, cooperation, and innovation. We want also to be much more specific and strategic in order to tailor-made our actions, taking into account the situation, the relations that we have with the different parts of the world. So we have a certainly differentiated approach with the industrialized countries, with the countries which are developing countries, and with those countries of the neighborhood, which are in fact the ones that participate in the UpM, with which we want really to have stronger ties, as strong as possible, based on the fact that we share the same values and objectives. Speaking about values and objectives, one important element of our global approach is that we give much more focus and emphasis to the fact that through international cooperation in research and innovation, we also want to promote those important values, European values, which we believe are important for the cooperation in research and innovation, and important in order to promote this, to promote the European way of life. And I say way of life because it is one of the priorities of the President of the Commission in the world. When I speak about those values, I speak about academic freedom, research ethics and integrity, gender equality, diversity and inclusiveness, open data and open science. And I will not be longer on that, but this is just to give you an idea. Then another element that I would like to introduce is that what we have been very keen on is to say that in the relation with some specific countries, which are really growing in terms of powerhouse, in terms of science and innovation, we really want to enhance much more a cooperation which is based on a level playing field, on reciprocity, on mutual opening of our policies and programs. And there I'm referring in particular to the discussions that we have with China, which are the object of a roadmap on science, research and innovation, which we are discussing and developing. all that to give you the sense that in our cooperation, in our international cooperation in research and innovation, we really want to, on one side, implement the key strategic objectives of the EU. On the other side, we want to use it also as a tool, not only for pushing scientific cooperation among the scientists in the world, but also at the service of our international cooperation and international policy. And there comes for me the science diplomacy which is explicitly mentioned in the global approach as a specific element that we should enhance in order to tailor-make the cooperation with the countries outside Europe. So science diplomacy for us means that we can use research and innovation in order to have cooperation with and amongst those countries with which we have some less fluent and smooth relations. I have to take the classical example, which is the SESAM, the synchrotron in Jordan, which has been supported also by the European Commission. And there it is, it's really the example of science diplomacy where we have managed to, together with the CERN, together with the other actors, to support and put together scientists from countries or regions of the world which would not cooperate if it was not for sharing a scientific project. But also, I would like to say that there is the other dimension, the fact that science diplomacy, science helps us, it feeds with concrete actions, the different level of cooperation which we want to have with the different strategic partners outside Europe. Now, coming to the Mediterranean, and I don't want to take too much of time, I think that we have the great example of the PRIMA program, the reinforced partnership for the research innovation cooperation in the South Med, which, by the way, was secretariat based in Barcelona, where we have managed to conclude 5 international agreements which were needed in order to join the Southern Mediterranean countries to the PRIMA program, namely the agreements with Jordan, with Morocco, with Egypt, with Lebanon, and with Algeria. A caveat is that Tunisia and Israel could participate already under the association agreement that they had with the EU being associated to Horizon 2020, so there was not the need of a self-standing international agreement. And there, just to say the power of science diplomacy, if we take Morocco, for example, there was a moment, it was the moment where the relations between the EU and Morocco were kind of frozen due to the Western Sahara related issues and the judgment of the European Court of Justice. And in spite of that, we managed to reach an agreement because science is important also to bridge the gaps that we have in our relations with third countries. We have also the case of Lebanon, which I really want to highlight. The PRIMA agreement with Lebanon was the first international agreement after 11 years of the EU not reaching any fully fledged international agreement. Just to say the power that science has in order to move things forward. I would conclude to say that you can count on me, of course, on the European Commission to continue to use science diplomacy as a powerful tool for our scientific cooperation and also for feeding in our international relations with third countries, countries outside Europe, and especially with those countries with which we want to have a strong and enhanced relationship, like the countries of the Southern Med. And in this respect, we are very, very happy of the positive developments that are taking place in our relations with the Union for the Mediterranean. And we really look forward to the holding of a research and innovation ministerial meeting that should take place, if everything goes well, next year. And I think this is really a concrete sign of the importance of research and innovation in the cooperation with the South Med. Before I pass you back the floor, dear Itaf, just one word to thank one of my dearest colleagues, Jacopo Bordignon, who has been leading the cooperation with the Southern Mediterranean countries for the last 2 years. I think Jacopo is there. You can put your video.
Maria Cristina. Hello,
morning,
everybody.
Jacopo.
Good morning.
So Jacopo has been your counterpart, Giuseppe. He has been working very actively with the cooperation with for the cooperation with the South Med and the Union for the Mediterranean. He decided to go closer to you because he's gonna go to Madrid and he's gonna go to work in one of the United Nations agencies. I would just like to take this occasion to really thank Jacopo with all of you. I think that Itaf, Giuseppe, and I'm sure Nasser would also join himself in thanking Jacopo for the work done, wishing all the best for your next assignment, and thanking all of you also for the for this invitation for the seminar, which I hope is going to be very fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christina.
Yeah,
It's
please,
been a
Jacopo.
real pleasure. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Thank you, dear Director Russo. Thank you for your input and the important information that you shared with us today, for all the work that the DGRTD are doing on science diplomacy. And I will join you to thank Jacopo for this cooperation that we have during these years on the UFM regional platform on other meeting. You will be close to us here in Spain. We will be very happy to see you here at UFM also. What I will say now is we will try to have the video of Secretary General. I think it will be now it will be good to move to the video of the Nasser Kemal, Secretary General of UFM. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to greet warmly all the participants in this workshop, as well as the different speakers that will intervene, and especially my very dear friend and colleague, Director Maria Cristina Russo from the European Commission, and our co-chair of the UFM Regional Platform in Research and Innovation. During the 3 days of this training program, you will explore how regional multi-stakeholder cooperation on science and innovation can help achieving sustainable prosperity in the Mediterranean. I do believe that you will gain knowledge, develop skills, and find networking opportunity to put science diplomacy into action for the benefit of our region. Dear participant, research and innovation as a best practice in the region is an important subject. We are all aware that the Mediterranean has always been an area of brilliant minds and great ideas. And the Union for the Mediterranean is driven to promote science diplomacy as an essential tool to foster regional integration. In many instances and initiatives, it has been an enriching experience to see so many passionate researchers, experts, and government officials working together on linking science and human development. And throughout the years, the UFM has supported many successful partnerships and initiatives such as the PRIMA partnership, which has focused, of course, on the management of water, the farming systems, and the agro-food value chain. We have also supported the Blue Med initiative, which is obviously on blue economy, whose expansion to the southern and eastern Mediterranean has been supported by the UFM and also by the European Union. Another great initiative that we support is the Med-ECC, a network of scientists working together, of course, towards a regional science policy interface on climate or climatic and other environmental changes across the Mediterranean. Ladies and gentlemen, the way in which cooperation on research and innovation is encouraged in the Euro-Mediterranean area can be named a best practice. Indeed, the UpM regional platform on research and innovation has been a reference and has delivered significant achievements in the path created by the Barcelona process more than 25 years ago. Last year, dealing with the pandemic, while dealing with the pandemic, to be more accurate, this partnership approach to scientific cooperation gave impulse to delivering a new agenda for the Mediterranean. An expert group was formed to develop it, reinforced by a serious consultation process with our regional stakeholders on the two shores of the Mediterranean. These priority topics were identified as of paramount importance for our region by this UpM regional platform. Those priorities are climate change, health, and renewable energy. And I'm happy to announce that in the last week, we have announced that we are starting the preparation for a UpM ministerial meeting on research and innovation that will be held next year. This ministerial on higher education and research will validate these agendas and will also pave the way for cooperation in a more effective way in our region. That is to stress the role of science in the future of our region, the Euro-Mediterranean region. And I believe that the pandemic, with all its negative effect on the region, has made our case much clearer. We need free exchange of ideas, free exchange of data, which can enable the co-creation of effective solutions for the most serious challenges of our time. COVID-19 has brought science back at the top of the international agenda and is bringing it back at the top of the regional agenda. The size and scope of global challenges need to be addressed through global multidimensional approaches, such as in the case of joint action on climate and environment and sustainable economic growth, or on health, of course. This holds true also for our region, an area where cultures and science met and mingled for thousands of years. So, dear participant, the growing complexity of the phenomena, the intricate interaction between different spheres require more science and a renewed multidisciplinary approach in different fields of knowledge that has to work together and to learn to share information and to understand much more beyond their very specific field of knowledge. Because we have many common challenges in our region on a regional level, and which requires multi-stakeholder cooperation through science that is fundamental to create innovative and inclusive solutions. And the creation of such opportunities requires the establishment of appropriate partnership among key stakeholders, including scientists, policymakers, and of course, diplomats. Science diplomacy, my dear participant, is a powerful tool for understanding and achieving regional objectives while fostering a positive sense of belonging to a cross-border community based on skills, openness, and a win-win solutions. Science and research, again, offer opportunity to create stronger bonds between the two Mediterranean shores. It is vital to create bridges for scientists and researchers to come together, to tackle together issue of common interest, resulting in an outcome greater than the sum of individual or national efforts. This interconnection and synergy created by scientific programs and exchanges will facilitate the spreading of best practices, will foster innovation among the industry, the research center, the scientists, and will enhance the cause of development. Lastly, my dear participant, this cooperation will bring different countries together around shared issues such as food and water sustainability, new energy resources, and other common societal challenges. Once again, I wish you a very productive workshop full of inspiration and ideas to enhance science diplomacy in our great region. Thank you very much.
Firstly, I want to apologize for the quality of the video. You know, now with our online events, all of us are used to have some technical problems, but I think the message was very clear, and we have the same message from Secretary General Nasser Kamel and from Director Russo, that by working together we can achieve great integration. We have more challenges and more difficult to collectively address them, but by working together, scientific and diplomat, we can move forward. And after listening to diplomats, I think it's time now to listen to our scientists. Let us move now to our next speaker, Dr. Alicia Perez Poro, Scientific Coordinator at CREAF. Alicia, please, could you, given your considerable experience, which has helped building this 3-day training, what is your perspective on the potential and challenges of science diplomacy in our region? Please, Alicia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Itaf. Thank you, everyone. Very pleased to be here. So good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you to the Union for the Mediterranean for the opportunity to partner with them from CREAF to create this workshop about science diplomacy in the Mediterranean region. It is an absolute pleasure being here, sharing the virtual floor with such distinguished speakers. For those unfamiliar with CREAF, CREAF is a public research and innovation center in ecology, territorial analysis, and environmental impact based in Barcelona. We actively work for excellence in knowledge generation, methodological development, social impact, training, and dissemination. Through excellence in science, we aim to be a Mediterranean and world-class research institution that pushes the frontiers of knowledge while addressing some of the biggest and more complex environmental challenges society faces this century. In the beginning of 2020, the world witnessed something for what we were not really prepared, a global pandemic. Almost immediately, words like real-time PCR, mRNA, and gene expression were in the front page of almost every newspaper. The coronavirus pandemic made some scientific terms and concepts mainstream and put science in the center of our lives like never before. Moreover, it made more visible the fact that most of the global challenges that humanity is facing and will face in the future, challenges that don't have passports and don't understand borders, like the pandemic itself, but also climate change, biodiversity loss, water scarcity, and many more that we will cover in this workshop, have a big scientific component, both to understand the challenge and to address it. The pandemic also highlighted the importance of international cooperation, international collaborations, and international relations. Those global challenges that I just mentioned are too big to be addressed by only one or a few countries, affect all humanity, not only selected countries, and require justice and fairness to build a viable future. Overall, the pandemic has been a stress test for the relationship between science and diplomacy, triggering a global reckoning of how transnational crises of planetary scale, infection diseases, the looming climate crisis, biodiversity collapse, interlink humanity's destiny. Responses to those crises cannot be fragmented and uncoordinated like the responses to COVID-19 have been, exposing a profound disconnect between the scientific and foreign policy domains. It is really urgent to bring science from the margins to the center of international relations. Additionally, by aligning scientific and diplomatic agendas, nations can attract scientific talent, strengthen national research and innovation systems and competitiveness, provide avenues for greater participation of scientists in the formulation of public policies, promote regional integration, and tend bridges between countries. Science, and most particularly research, is collaborative at its core. We scientists collaborate with each other scientists since day one of our careers. Like global challenges cannot be addressed by just one country, most of the research cannot be conducted by just one researcher. Science also needs cooperation, especially to create initiatives that elevate important information to decision-making tables. A very important task, not always rewarded as it should be in some scientific systems. Nowhere on the planet has science diplomacy greater potential than in the Euro-Mediterranean region, a crossroads of civilizations where cultures and science have been intertwined for millennia. A good example of international cooperation and collaboration with science in its exemption and to address a global challenge could be MEDEC, the Network of Mediterranean Experts on Climate and Environmental Change, created in 2015. A community of scientific experts willing to provide their expertise on a voluntary basis. Their objective is to support decision-making in the Mediterranean with accurate and accessible information on current and future impacts of climate and environmental changes. In November of 2019, this network counted more than 600 scientists, some of them from CREAF, from 35 countries. Science diplomacy actions and initiatives, like MEDEC, are more than the sum of national efforts. They are the key to bring scientific and technological innovation to the international negotiating table and solve transnational challenges, such as climate change or the spread of infectious diseases. The Paris Agreement, the Antarctic Treaty, and the Montreal Protocol demonstrated that science diplomacy is both successful and necessary to create a sustainable future. And scientists and scientific institutions are key actors of science diplomacy. Even though the concept of science diplomacy is fairly recent, emerging in 2010, based on the power and universality of science to align with different actors and sectors like governments, academia, industry, NGOs, civil society, and the national and global interests to jointly face shared challenges. All of this makes this workshop incredibly relevant for both scientists and diplomats, but also for any professional interested in the field of science diplomacy. In the 21st century, science diplomacy seeks to renew multilateralism to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda, leaving no one behind.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for your intervention and for also for respecting time. Can I resume what you say, that scientific community set an example for politicians about the importance of working together to tackle all our common challenges. And I think we have to work diplomat and scientific together, not only scientific community and only diplomats, but together for all these challenges and all to achieve the sustainable development goal. It's very important, this spirit of equipe and of community, I think. And to move also now forward, let us now talk about the connection between global and regional systems. I will give the floor to Director Morrison. FAO as a UN agency contributes to create global common basis of knowledge, which support researchers and scientists in talking to each other. Director Morrison is the Director of Sustainable Food System at FAO. Please, Director, my question is how food systems contribute to creating a cross-border shared knowledge, for instance, through innovation and education. And also, sorry, but I want to thank you for being with us today. Dr. Morrison, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Itef, and dear participants, good morning to all of you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Union for the Mediterranean for inviting FAO to participate in this important workshop. And to answer the question that you set, I think to start with the global level, as we know, the world is not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And from the perspective of the focus of FAO on food and agriculture, we've seen after decades of decline, the number of hungry people has been growing over the past 5 years, reaching up to 811 million people last year. At the same time, more than 3 billion people still cannot afford a healthy diet, and obesity and non-communicable diseases are on the rise. Agri-food systems are also contributing significantly to natural resource degradation and exacerbating the effects of climate change. And we've seen in the wake of the global crisis, which has been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, food systems are under even more strain, with threats to economies, to jobs, to food security and nutrition, and increasingly to natural resources and the environment. And I think the Mediterranean region really is no exception to all of these challenges. What we need is coordinated efforts across a range of actors, institutions, and sectors to ensure that diverse food products are more sustainably produced, handled, processed, distributed, and that they are marketed and priced fairly and enable these consumers who are unable to access healthy diets to do so. To support member states in ensuring the application of modern science and technology and the adoption of innovative approaches in managing resources, projects, and programs to try to achieve more sustainable food systems, FAO is applying 4 cross-cutting elements to accelerate science-based agri-food system transformation. The first of these is technology, and this is technology based on evidence on what works. The second, innovation. Innovation to ensure flexibility and to optimize the efficiency of solutions which have been proposed. Thirdly, data. Data is critical to ensure that we target our efforts better. And fourthly, what we call complements, governance, human capital, and institutions, which need to be strengthened to ensure that agri-food system transformation is inclusive and is sustainable in the longer term. So the way we're looking at this as an organization is that addressing the trade-offs between competing economic, environmental, and social objectives requires negotiation amongst different stakeholders And these stakeholders have very different perceptions, interests, resources, and power. And I think that the science policy interface can help in simplifying this complexity by using evidence to highlight the urgent priorities which are coming forward in a particular context, and on that basis to suggest optimal solutions within that context. We know that no one size fits all. We need to be much more focused in on the solution which are applicable to the priorities of a particular region or community, and also to the constraints that they're facing. However, science alone is rarely sufficient, and it will not lead to policy change and implementation. Even if we have good science, nothing will advance without the political will of decision makers who have the final word on policies which are implemented. Therefore, governance and political economic analysis have to be at the forefront of any solution. And we saw this come through in the outcomes of the UN Food System Summit, which was held on the 23rd of September, and which reaffirmed how agri-food systems can and must play a leading role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The Food System Summit resulted in many governments making commitments to accelerating their efforts in transforming agri-food systems. And indeed, we saw already 107 countries have made available their transformative pathways for taking forward the development of food systems within their context. Many other countries are still working in that direction. So I think we have a really solid basis on which to build on these commitments. We also heard the call to support national mechanisms in further developing and implementing national pathways that are both inclusive and in line with the SDGs. The Food System Summit dialogues were a starting point in this process, and they need to be built on, and we need to ensure that all relevant stakeholders, including finance institutions, private sectors, civil society, play a role in further defining the pathways and ensuring that their implementation is truly going to move us down a more sustainable path. And in line with this, I'm very pleased that FAO has recently joined forces with the Union for the Mediterranean and CREAF to build a strategic initiative to bring together all relevant stakeholders in the Mediterranean to support the transition to more sustainable food systems. The so-called SFS-MED, Sustainable Food Systems in the Mediterranean platform, aims at fostering a sense of community to leverage the existing knowledge, experience, and skills of institutions across the Mediterranean. More specifically, it provides a forum for dialogue and collaboration on key themes for food system transformation in the Mediterranean, and to identify common priorities based on scientific evidence and local knowledge, which will help us to rethink food systems within the region. It also promotes regional models for data sharing, for science diplomacy, and the advancement of green and blue, inclusive and digital innovation to help support the scaling up of sustainable investments. The SFS-MED links with other regional processes, such as the 2030 Greener MED agenda. And this multi-stakeholder initiative, I feel, checks all of the boxes that we need for catalyzing food system transformation in the Mediterranean region. And it will help the region to follow up on the processes and the momentum which has been generated through the UN Food System Summit at both the regional and the country level. And this momentum, I think, provides us with a real opportunity to use platforms such as this to bring together the invaluable experiences of countries and stakeholders across the region, and to strengthen the efforts which we're all making to move towards more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems. So thank you all for your attention, and back to you, moderator.
Thank you, Director Morrison. I want to join you to for greeting the hard and the great work on the platform for sustainable food system that we are working together, UFM, FAO, and CIAM during this our meeting for establishing this platform. Thank you again for being with us today. I want to say little words at the ending of our high-level panel. It's clear that at the different level, global, European, Mediterranean, science diplomacy is now an established tool for promoting cooperation and we are showing that this dimension, and we hope that through our training, this training of 3 days, that the importance of science diplomacy will be evident, visible, and useful for all our participants for your career, whether diplomat, researcher. And I think that after these 3 days, in the conclusion, we will discuss and we will also share also our experience, and it's very important for us to have your feedback and to have your opinion about this training. And we hope that on 2022 we will have this training not online but here in Barcelona or whatever in the Mediterranean region. Thank you. I thank all our panelists today, and I will give the floor to my colleague Giuseppe. Please, Giuseppe.
Thank you very much, Ita, for moderating this first high-level session, and to all the speakers for these excellent points. Indeed, it's very clear that science diplomacy is going out from being a niche in being something which is very structural. And this high-level panel has really demonstrated that even the highest level, it is a tool on which we can count on and which is already integrated. We've seen in the case of the EU and the also FAO and other levels how much important this is. After closing this first high-level panel, let's now move to the second part of this training. Being a training, of course, it is both a mixture of panels, but also of or more frontal and interactive training parts. So I'm very much pleased to now move to the part of the course overview and setting the scenes. It's going to give us an introduction to science diplomacy. As mentioned, this training is being implemented by CREAF. So for this, I am very much pleased to give the floor to Dr. Marga Gual-Soler, who is a senior science diplomacy advisor to CREAF and the founder and CEO of Science Diplo Global, supporting governments, multilateral organizations such as the UFM, universities on building science diplomacy capacities. She was previously, of course, a high-level advisor to the former European Commission for Research and Innovation, MOEDES, and on the Open World Strategy. She's a senior project director at AAS, Center for Science Diplomacy, and she's based actually in the heart of the Mediterranean, in the island of Mallorca. So, Marga, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Giuseppe. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thank you to the UFM and to